What's up, everybody? This is Dr. Nick with LVRG Media, and welcome to another episode of Path to a Million podcast. I've got a great guest for you guys today, my new friend, Dr. Melissa Longo with Rockstar Doctor Life. Dr. Melissa, please say hello to the people.
Good morning and welcome to the show. I'm looking forward to this conversation.
Absolutely, I am too. Dr. Melissa, you are a chiropractor in Canada. You have a practice in your home, which I think is interesting. And then you also coach chiropractors on lots of different things that we'll jump into here in a little bit. But just give people a little bit about your background, kind of how you ended up where you're at now, and then we'll get started.
Sure. And sorry, when I said welcome, I think I jumped into podcast mode there because I'm used to being the one doing the interviewing. So I've been in practice for 19 years. I graduated practice, had my first son 4 days later. So I started practice as a mom with my ex-husband, and we did that for 10 years. It was great. We had another child. For lots of different reasons, our business partnership was fine. Our personal relationship shifted. And 10 years ago, I exited that relationship and needed to rebuild my practice with two little guys as a single mom. And that process was, pivotal for me in so many ways, because it really gave me a chance to figure out the kind of practice that I wanted and really get clear and simplify some of the things that weren't working in my life, in business and personally, obviously. So fast forward now, definitely some hard years, but now, I have a home-based practice now for the last 8 years. And my sons now are 15 and 19, so they need very different things from their mom than they did, years ago. Mm-hmm. But I just realized that there was a lot of things I was doing in my practice life, my business life, growing a big practice, having a big team, having other people work in our facility. And it just didn't suit me. It didn't make me happy. I was exhausted at the end of the day. I wasn't showing up as the best mom I could be to my sons. My sons are active, amazing kids, and I had a lot going on, like a lot of people. And I just thought, how do I shift this? Because it's not working for me. And I was lucky because at that point I was in my late 30s and I thought, okay, I'm going to cut out the stuff that's not working. So that's when I bought this property, merged my home and my business life, stripped away a lot of the things that I didn't love anymore, and just focused on being a chiropractor and focused on being a health educator and a leader in my community. So when I stripped away the things that weren't working, it gave me opportunities to have a television show in my community, start one podcast, then another. So right now I have 4 that I produced, and teach, do videos. I do a lot of coaching right now with other chiropractors, with other healthcare providers, with other entrepreneurs. And I found a lot of work that is very, very meaningful to me that I never expected. So that's what I'm doing right now. I still actively parent my kids and relationships and take care of my health, and feel like I have a pretty good life.
Well, that's great. It sounds great. I think it's interesting that, that your path kind of followed mine, where, I had these ambitions outside of just seeing patients. And when I removed myself from the day-to-day like patient care, it opened up lots of other opportunities. But as long as you have your head down and you're seeing patients and you're as busy as you can be and you're tired at the end of the day, it's hard to start the online program. It's hard to start the coffee shop or the other business that you might be more passionate about when you are always in it. So I think the simplification piece of it definitely resonates with me. So I think there's a couple of things that you said in there that were interesting to me that I think I haven't talked to anybody that has a home-based practice. So tell me a little bit about that. How do you separate the practice and the home, and what's the setup there?
That's a great question, because I think for a lot of people, there's some misconceptions around it. And so right now we're in my reception area. It's really amazing space. I currently have doors open. And so right now is the warmer weather, patio season as well. And you walk into out of this room into a clinical room. There's 3 chiropractic tables, a pediatric and 2 adult tables, and a restroom and a desk. And basically the entire space is about 500 square feet. Mm-hmm. And I say my practice is small but mighty. And I'm fortunate that when I bought this property, it was already zoned for commercial and mixed use. Mm-hmm. There was extensive renovations. It was already the way the building was designed, being an old home. it was already kind of designed front and back. So I was able to, gut the backyard and put parking in there and the deck and whatnot. And so now people come into the back and they come in here, they don't ever have to walk into my home. So there's a very distinct difference between my personal space and my practice space. And a lot of people don't even know that we live here. Yeah. And so, yeah, it's been, obviously it's highly financially profitable because my overhead is very low. Yeah. There's also lots of other benefits to that as well, but it's a really great space. It works for me. I do a lot of, I'm allowed to, where I live, do pre-pays, pre-booking. So there's a lot of seamless online booking too, like a lot of things that really work with the technology these days that allow me to see a great volume of people in a pace that works for me. Yeah. And is, again, highly profitable. I've never had an issue with people taking advantage of the fact that I live here. I have very distinct clinical hours. I have very distinct boundaries, even for my day to day, the hours that I do coaching and, other type of work and the hours that I am in the clinic. So that's really up to the doctor to set that up, whatever kind of practice style you have. But I've never had the opportunity where people have asked more from me to show up, at a weird time. That's usually the biggest question that doctors get, oh, well, how do you turn off? Well, I don't know. I'm the kind of doc that I want to be here at 9:00 at night if there's a kid with an ear infection and they want to get adjusted. Like I'm going to provide emergency care. So I have that freedom and flexibility to provide the kind of care that I want to my families and my community. But the boundaries are clear for me and I'm clear with them when I explain them to people. And I don't know, it works really great. Yeah. It's a really great, I have so many people that ask me, how did you do it? What are the things to consider? And there's a lot we could dive into if you want to, as far as, zoning and space and decor and things, and I teach a lot of culture and community building in my programs. But yeah, I love I would, for right now, there would be no reason I would ever give this up, even though I'm doing a lot more work these days outside my practice. I live here and this space is great. I spend a lot of time in this room, even when I'm not in the clinic. So again, it works for me and it freed up a lot of time for me to do other things when I made this move. So I don't know if those were your specific questions or if there's.
I don't think we have to get into the zoning issues, but that's basically what I was interested in, because I can't remember if I have talked to anybody recently that has a home practice. My first practice was in a really small town, and I was this close to buying because at the time I lived with my dad for like the first year that I was in practice. And I was going to buy this house that was like this big old house. And the bottom floor was going to be the office and the top floor was going to be where I lived at. And I didn't pull the trigger on that, but we are kindred spirits in that, like, I like everything to be in one place. Like I work from home for Leverage Media. When I'm in my office, my chiropractic office, like I stay in this back room. So I'm very like, if I can just be in one place all the time, that's always a benefit.
It's about, to me, simplification is a big thing for me. Yeah. And simplifying doesn't mean making things smaller. It doesn't mean contracting. It actually can offer a lot of expansion. So I think that's a really important distinction for people to make.
I think that whether it's in your life or in practice, like the bigger things get, the easier it is to like add things on that just aren't necessary. You like feel like you need to like fill the space or fill the time or whatever. And if you just want to see patients, 3 half days a week in a 500 square foot space, it's hard to like start. It's very easy to say no to things that aren't like exactly what you want to do. So I think
it comes down to really getting clear on your values, right? I mean, your values for your business and your values for your personal life. And for me, it's a foundational piece with all my clients, because if you don't know what your why is and what things that matter to you and what boundaries you have for what you will allow into your life and what you won't, then it gets really mucky and it gets really unclear to make choices. And you're absolutely right. I mean, you end up saying yes to things that then you have to say no later. And that's a lot harder to do than saying no at the beginning. Because they don't fit with you.
You probably have no employees, which always decreases stress quite a bit.
Well, I do. I have a team of people, but I don't have a full-time, CHA. No, I don't. And what I realized is when I had an amazing woman that worked here with me, and her personal life changed and she needed to move on. And so I had a couple of months where I was looking to fill the spot, and just out of necessity, I didn't have anyone here. And it really changed the culture in my practice. And it got to the point where, again, because I was doing systemized, procedures and whatnot, things were still flowing. And I was thinking, all my colleagues were like, if you can keep managing it without someone there all the time, why wouldn't you?
Yeah.
And then I even had people in my practice saying, do we need anyone else in here? And so there was just a lot of lessons and things that came to me. I thought, well, what do I really need? I don't need someone to sit here and make phone calls. People can email and text, and like, there's all kinds of other solutions right now creatively. Yeah. And so it really works again for me. And it's the more technology you can embrace in your practice, makes a lot of things very efficient. And having said that, I have an amazing team of people who support my business, both my businesses, and they just don't happen to sit here all day. And I think that's also a really important thing for docs to get. Like, you can have a person who might be really great with people, and they may not have the skills to manage social media or to do your bookkeeping or to, deal with other tasks you might want. So if you can delegate and hire people and build a creative team that fulfills different roles with different people who have those really high strengths that you need, that's a much stronger team than one person you're expecting to do everything.
Yeah. And you also don't need everything to be done by someone sitting in the same room as you. Like,
no, not nowadays.
The pandemic should have taught us all that there are lots of things that can be done remotely.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And I think that's been one of the gifts for a lot of people is shifting your team and embracing, don't get me wrong, because I definitely think people need to be together. And there's a connection and community that we're all missing a lot these days, depending on where you live. However, there's a lot that you can outsource. And a lot of people are very happy to do that. And if it's given them time back to be with their families or to do things that matter to them in their business life.
Well, I live here in Chicago, and I live in downtown, and the people that worked here pre-pandemic, I mean, some of them were giving up 3 hours a day of their life to like get on a train, hour and a half in, hour and a half home. And I'm like, man, most of them have jobs where it's like not necessary for them to physically be in the same space. And I'm like, just get that time back. Like, commuting to me is the worst.
Yeah, I couldn't imagine. My commute is usually on my bike or my scooter or my feet as much as I can. Right. I got to get out of here to go get a coffee or, get something to eat just to change my day so I'm not here. Yeah. And I'll be honest too, I do have a space at a co-working space in my community too, because there's sometimes I want to be outside of this building and work amongst other creative entrepreneurs. But I wouldn't want to commute.
Yeah. So it does seem like you fully have embraced content marketing. You've got a TV show, you write a blog, you've got podcasts and ebooks and online programs. So let's kind of talk about some of the content that you create for your practice. What have you found to be the most impactful in terms of like the medium that's worked for you?
Honestly, for me, I think video, because and audio. I started creating content for my practice, when I first got back into practice, like when my kids were younger, because I realized like I didn't have the time to go and do things that I would have done to grow practice because my kids were little and I was on my own. So what I could do was create videos or write something when they were at school or when they were asleep. And so I really built my practice by creating content. So yeah, thank you for acknowledging that. I think for me now, I'm really comfortable because I've done television, because I've done this for so long and I made so many mistakes. My confidence and my abilities are better now than they were. So I feel fine putting on my iPhone and just doing a video and talking about something. And I think as docs in healthcare, people really want that connection, right? It's one thing for them to read something from you, but when they hear your voice or they see your face, they can get to know you a little bit more. And I think that's really, really powerful. We're looking for people to trust us with their health and with their confidence, and depending on what they're going through. And even when I've done my business stuff, like with Rockstar Dr. Life and the podcasts I've had, like I have people come up to me at events or stop me in airports and stuff because they feel they know me, even though they've never met me, because they've heard my voice so many times on the show. You probably have the same thing. So I think for my practice, writing things, I don't love to write, to be honest. So I have some support with that right now, with topics. But I think videos for me at this point have been really strong.
I agree that videos can not only be used to like get your message out there, but it can also be used where, you know, like you have a YouTube channel or on your website, where, because people do research, you know, they're looking online to see if they can kind of figure out what the practice is all about, what you're all about. So just having that stored in a way to where it's easy for people to access, I think makes a big difference in terms of people converting into actually showing up. So
I think it's important to remember that it doesn't have to be perfect. Like people want to see humanity and realness, and you know, maybe they don't want to see all your bloopers and really rough cuts, but we coach our clients like done is better than perfect. Yeah. I would much rather get on there and I will, again, like I've done this long enough that I my skills are a little bit better because I've had so much more practice, and that's really all it comes down to. You don't ever get to practice if you never do it. Right. So you have to get started. So if someone's listening or watching this and they're like, how do I get good at doing videos or audio? Honestly, first of all, it might not be your jam. We've all watched really bad videos where people feel uncomfortable. We've all listened to podcasts that were boring. So know your jam and know what your skills are and own that and be okay with it. I don't recommend everyone does video or everyone does podcasts. Some people are really gifted at writing and they should write. I want to hear them. I want to read what they write and share it. So know what your skills are, first of all, but then just do it and get better at it, because, and don't worry about being perfect. You know, was what I was trying to go for there, because if you see like a human and a real person that's just trying to share, you know, from your heart, some really solid information about stretches, nutrition, how to deal with your back pain, whatever it is, it's going to translate differently with the person that's watching it.
Yeah. You did mention that you had some local podcasts. That's one thing that it's easy for me to see tons of value in the videos. It's easy for me to see a lot of value in blog writing. Or just writing in general. I always kind of struggle in giving people advice on what to do for a local podcast. Have you found the podcast to be helpful in your local community, and kind of what allowed you to grow that locally?
Yeah, I think what I did do a podcast called Rock Your Health for my my practice. What I found was better was a double. I would record a video and an interview. The short answer is I would invite other people from my community to come in and have a conversation about something. So for example, I had a local, yoga teacher come in, and we sat here on this couch and we did a video and I recorded. It's a little tricky to do a video and audio at the same time. But with, all kinds of technology, you can do that now. So you can have two pieces of content with one effort. So I would invite other people in my community to come in and share their information about health and well-being. So this yoga instructor, we talked about meditation and yoga and flexibility. It was short. It was maybe 15 minutes. That video went out. So then she was able to share it to her community. And, I was able to then put it on my Facebook and in my, YouTube and all that stuff, and then have a podcast as well that I could share. So I would invite other local naturopathic doctors, anyone local in my town that had information that resonated with my message. And I did the same thing when I had the television show. The show was about building health. It wasn't about chiropractic. It was about, I just was really clear that I didn't want it to be on disease management. I wanted it to be on living and lifestyle. So it was called Good Living, Good Health. And I would go around to different places in the community and feature any kind of topic that would support good living. So I did, conversations with the running clubs and all the sporting clubs, and then the local butcher, and again, the local physicians, chiropractors. It was a lot of fun. And so I think, for the key for docs listening would be thinking about how can you collaborate if you want to build a podcast in your community. Well, first of all, you need to think about what's the message that your ideal customer, if you're going to use it to grow your practice, what's the message that your ideal customer wants to hear? What are they interested in? If you're a sports doc, then you're going to want to create a podcast about sports and rehabilitation and performance enhancement, right? If you're a family wellness doc, then you're going to want to be thinking about what are the questions that you get in your practice, and how can you create content that addresses that need for people in your practice that actually supports your practice and also attracts new people. So for me, my podcast was double, right? It was my goal was to support the people in my practice and the questions I was getting that I didn't have time to address effectively, but also attract the right people because the message was something that I felt other people would want to hear. So think about what your community, what your ideal customer needs, and then also look to collaborate. And the more you can collaborate, then that strengthens, your growth in general, because then people are going to share your information as well and want to refer people to you.
Yeah. That's kind of the angle that I've always recommended is, just like with this podcast, I create content most of the days for the podcast. I love having the interviews because you're able to bring in a whole new voice, and you never know like where the conversational will go versus like when you're creating content on your own, you like say a lot of the same things, you like repeat yourself a lot. So usually in interviews, it always allows you to kind of think of different.
Yeah, and that's why I think again it's important to look at your how you evolve in your businesses, right? And I love the same thing. I love Rockstar Doctor Life. We're at 150. I think today is 157 episodes, and it's all conversations with other healthcare professionals, the majority who are chiropractors, and it's very much like this, and I love it. But then I felt there was a massive gap in my ability to teach the things and share the things that I talk to my clients with in my one-on-one coaching. The chiropractors are also in the virtual online space that I coach and teach in. So I wanted something where I could do short monologues and share that information with people. So that's why I started a separate podcast for that. So it just depends on what your goals are really and what you want to share with people.
Yeah. Did you find, just last thing on the podcast, did you find that like the numbers were good on like the podcast downloads? Like were people listening to it? Did they mention it to you? Or were they getting more from like you posting the videos online?
I don't think the numbers on my practice podcast, they're nowhere near what my other podcasts were because they're the avatars of a different community of people. I think what it does though too, is it shows people that you're engaged. And it shows people, and so there's two things. I mean, looking at the data is great and the return on that, but I think it keeps a lot of doctors inspired. It's like doing, trainings or seminars in your office for people in your community, or doing a report if you do group reports, like that fires you up as a doc more than anything else. So I think that can be the value, one of the big values of it. And also your patients love to see that you're engaged in doing things. And the more they see that you're doing, they're like, oh, you got to see her. She's doing all these things. And it adds a ton of credibility. I mean, even when I was doing my television show was a community television show. I wasn't paid to do it. And I mean, there were some perks, but my practice grew indirectly because people loved the fact that I had a television show. For some reason, it adds so much more credibility to you. And next thing I know, I'm like the celebrity chiropractor in town because people see me on TV. And those shows were evergreens too. So that show is still running and we're not producing it anymore. So yeah, I think, but the value, for me was that I was engaged in learning new topics and giving. And again, it's karma too. I think when you give and try to share information with people, you're going to be rewarded in some way, indirectly or directly.
I agree. And like audio, for the people that do listen, it's so easy for them to passively consume it, binge it, so that they do feel like they know you before they ever meet you. Because I get that same thing. And it's a podcast more than anything else that like allows people to feel that way, I think. All right, so let's go into the Rockstar Doctor Life and talk about how you're helping chiropractors. So, correct me if I'm wrong, but it seemed to be kind of like the three core components are, simplifying your practice in your life, making sure that your brand is on point, and adding online programs into the mix. Is there any other topics that you like discuss, or are those like the big three?
Well, it depends on, so those are probably the three main categories that I coach on, but they don't all go towards in one. They don't all, how can I, so if you're a chiropractic client of mine, then you might be in the Simple Practice program, which is a 12-week program we do 3 times a year, or you might be a one-on-one client. And for those clients, we will talk about whatever the simplification of your practice. So Simple Practice, we talk about communications, marketing, team, culture, values. We talk about a lot. And same thing if you're a one-on-one client of mine, we will dive into all those areas and including personal health and mindset. Some of those clients will also want some help with their branding, but they're also very distinct. So the work that I do right now is chiropractic coaching. And then I do coaching of brand building. And that's been a newer thing because I've observed it in the clients that I have in the online coaching that I do. There's a distinct difference there. So I am doing some of that. And that's and those clients, I'm only working with them on their content and their messaging and their brand, their personal brand, their business brand. I'm not teaching them how to grow a chiropractic business. And then my third hat is, I do work as a coach in an online entrepreneurial space. So Dr. Ed Osborne, he runs a program called laptop lifestyle. And so with the Virtual Practice Academy and the Inner Circle, those are 2 tiers of that program. And I'm one of the coaches, along with him and Dr. Jason Richardson, who coach in those programs. And those people in those communities are healthcare professionals who are looking to expand their influence either within their practice and add virtual programs to their practice, or they're looking to expand outside their practice. So, and those people, some of those people definitely become chiropractic clients of mine, or they become branding clients. But I have kind of three different, boxes that I like to play in. And it might sound a little confusing, but it keeps me really happy and fulfilled and interested in my life. So.
Well, I was able to figure it out, so you're doing all right.
Okay, good.
So let's start with the simplification. Like, why is it so important for doctors to simplify their lives, simplify their practice?
Well, I think it comes down to something we talked about in our pre-chat. I mean, the simple thing is like create a life that matters to you. Mm-hmm. And if the life that you want is a big practice with lots of doctors, and you want to be the CEO or the clinician, or you like whatever you want, you can create, and you deserve it, whatever you want. But the simple part is getting clear on what matters to you, and that's not, let's be clear, simple doesn't mean easy. And getting to this point for me has not been an easy path all the time. Yeah. There's a difference, I think, between creating more ease and things being easy. However, simplification, I mean, a lot of docs are doing things in their day-to-day life that they're making more work for themselves. Right? So, or they're doing things because someone else told them they should. Mm-hmm. You have to do these kind of events. You have to do this kind of marketing. You have to do this. Well, maybe they don't. Maybe their practice can grow a totally different way that suits their personality and their family life and makes them happier. And guess what? If you're a happier doc, you tend to attract more people to your practice anyway. Right. So I think that's the core of simplification. I've had people in that program who have big practices and are looking to refine their communications. They're looking to simplify their marketing efforts. They're looking to streamline things. So there's a lot of things we can strip away and dial in and get more clear on and find what's working, what's not working. So I think that's a big part of it. But simple doesn't mean small. Yeah. It doesn't mean you're having a small impact. I've simplified my life and I've had a bigger impact since I've done that.
When you have a bigger practice, there's more opportunities to simplify than when you have a smaller practice, because there's just more moving parts. So I agree with you that simple does not mean that it has to be small. Like, who doesn't want a simple, nice, easy, profitable practice? So.
Yeah. And I think, but simple can be just making things less complicated. I mean, our tagline for that program is, adjust your business to create a lifestyle that you love. Mm-hmm. So if it means simplifying your office hours to maybe times that work for you so you can be home for dinner with your kids or get to their soccer games, then go for it. You're going to you can probably make the same amount of money in those hours and add a lot more joy to your life. So who wouldn't want that? Yeah. It doesn't mean that taking the active steps to get you there, again, are easy, but it's definitely possible. And you just sometimes need someone in your corner saying, you got this, you can do this. Here's the way forward.
Yeah. So let's talk about branding. I feel like that is a place that a lot of doctors struggle with, or just they don't pay much attention to it. So what are the areas that you think are lacking when it comes to a lot of doctors' brand?
Oh, wow. It's a great question and great conversation. I think that a lot of doctors have never taken any time to think about what their personal brand is, and I was the same. I mean, we get out of school and you learn to be a chiropractor, and then you have to learn how to own a business and run a business. And so it's through trial and error, but you don't think about you think your brand is just your logo. Well, no, it's only one little tiny piece of it. Mm-hmm. So I think there's a lot of misconceptions about the importance of really knowing your personal brand, which means knowing who you are, and then know how to own it and start to share it in a way that is meaningful. Mm-hmm. Know how to create content, know what I talk about them as content pillars, know the things that matter to you with your brand and your personality that you want to share with people, so that you're not just throwing out there a mismatch of stuff that people can't understand. Right. I think a lot of docs don't take the time also to really think about, your business brand, and then is that effectively consistent and cohesive in all the other mediums? So your business brand, your logo, is it current? Has it been evolved in 10 years you've been in practice? And there are ways to do that without losing the identity of your brand. You know, is that brand also reflected in how you create an environment in your practice, in your colors, in your decor, and how you're communicating with people? On social media, is it consistent with your online presence? Like, there's a lot of different places that your emails, like your brand should be very consistent so that people can easily recognize you and follow you and find you. And my observation with people I've worked with, docs have told me they've never stopped to think about who they are and how they want to show up in their practice. And what kind of personality, like what makes them different, and why would make people want to come see you in your practice versus someone else? You got to harness that. There's power in that. Yeah. There's a tremendous amount of power in your personality and your heart and soul, and showing up in your practice every day in a way that feels like you, and speaking in a way that communicates like you, and being in a space like my space is 100% me. You know, you can't see it all right now, but we got bookshelves here. We've got, you know, diplomas and all that stuff, but then we've got flowers and plants, and the colors feel like me. It's and that makes me happier to come to work, and I can easily connect with people because I'm in a space that feels like me. You can't minimize your environment, and it just has to be consistent. You know, everywhere, you know, you'll see, we've all seen things that seem kind of disjointed, and so I don't know, I feel like I'm rambling now about branding, but I think to summarize, the biggest gap that I see is docs never taking time to think about what their personal brand actually is. No one actually invited them to have this conversation. And I love doing it, because when we connect someone's personal brand with the visions that they have for their business, and then we actually package it in a logo and, you know, the whole visual system that really works, these docs love it. And they own it in a much different way. And they're excited to share their website. They're excited to share their stuff because it really just feels like them. And there's a lot of empowerment in that.
Yeah. We were talking before we started about photography and how that can really help you represent, especially like a personal brand. And I was telling you that I thought that you did a good job with, you know, getting images that seem like they represent you and like the lifestyle you're trying to promote. What are the, because I think that's, again, another place that doctors really struggle with, or that they don't see the importance of investing in good imagery or B-roll. What is it that you, when you're working with your photographer, what is either going through your mind or her mind or together? Like, what are you guys focused on when you're trying to create good, authentic, quality images?
I think it comes down to, first of all, having a really great comfort level with your photographer. I was mentioned to you earlier, another photo shoot a week or two ago. And this is, I think, session number 9 with this particular photographer. And so that history and that comfort is really important. I think having a dialogue with the photographer about what you're looking at. I mean, these are my brand words. This is what I'm going to use this content for. These are the kind of images that I'm looking for. So if you can't identify what those things, what those words are, and you don't know what you're looking for, then it's really hard for the photographer to capture them. You could also just totally surrender and let someone try to do their thing, you know, and show you who you are. But I don't think that's as effective. So I think, first of all, again, be clear on your branding. Be clear on, and, you know, you can talk to a great photographer or even a stylist or a coach, you know, about, okay, if these are your brand ideas, well, how are you going to capture that in photographs? Yeah, I mean, thank you for, like, I'm a ripped jeans, and I'm a ripped jeans kind of girl. So I tend to show up the same in my personal life and my business life and my practice life. So yeah, choosing the right clothing, talking to people who can maybe help you figure what that should be, like atmosphere. Like, it's really great if you're in an environment. When I'm outside, I'm in one of my happy places. So we've done a lot of shoots outside. Yeah, it's trial and error. I mean, the photos I just recently had done, I'm not in love with a lot of them. We tried to do something a little more serious, a little more fierce. And some of them are great. And some of them I'm like, that doesn't feel like me. A lot of people associate me with, like, bright and happy. so seeing me in, like, a serious kind of pose, it just doesn't connect with my brand. So it's trial and error. It's finding someone really great to work with you and to hear you and to have a communication around, if you're not happy, you know, go at it again.
Got it. And I will say, when dealing with creatives, especially if you have a particular, like, if you want, you maybe don't like, this is how I am. I am not really creative by myself, but I'm good at recognizing what I like and what I don't like. And so if I ask a creative, a photographer, a designer, just like go run wild and come back to me, it's going to take me longer to go through that process than if I go gather up things that I like and show them examples and say, this is what I like. These are the kind of pictures I like. Here's some pieces of a logo that I like. Can we put that together? And that, like, the creatives like it because they get guidance instead of just, because they know how people are. They know that, like, they'll do a great job, and then the person will just be like, man, I don't really like that much.
Well, and I think it's important to also trust them. I mean, with my newer photos, like, my photographer loves all of them.
Yeah. And
I was like, I don't love this one. Like, so I know that I'm being critical of either my own appearance or myself, or it wasn't the shot that I was looking for. So, but she had a vision for it and she sees it differently. So understanding, those creative differences and how we see things we can have our own filters, right? I think it's also really important to get current photos. I mean, I can't tell you how many photos I see, even people's Facebook photos. Sometimes I'm like, when was that photo taken? 10 years ago?
Right.
Like, it's not current. It doesn't, I mean, when I was growing out my hair, I was getting my photos done like every 6 months because I looked different constantly. Yeah. And I think that's a big gap for people. There's a lot of docs that have professional photos on their website, and then the person comes in and they don't even look at that person anymore. So be current.
Yeah. There's way too many doctors that are using stock photography on their websites because most of them have website in a box companies that just, if you don't provide them with something, they're going to throw something up. And then the doctors, like, once it's up, they never look at it again. And then that's what I think is so important, is for people to be able to resonate with you, and they can tell if it's your office or if it's stock photos. Yeah. What was I going to say?
And it's a worthwhile investment. I mean, if docs are sitting there, I don't want to, invest in having photos done. Okay, well, ask someone. Maybe there's a patient in your practice that is just getting started. Maybe there's a student. Like, there's ways that you can try to capture some of these ideas. And again, images of you and your practice, images of your practice that are not just taken, by yourself, but images of you doing things, you eating a healthy meal. Like, you can engage other people to work with you without spending, investing a lot of money if that's a concern.
That's what I was going to ask, is what's like a reasonable amount of money to spend on somebody to come in and do a photo shoot of the office and of the staff?
Well, I mean, I'm just trying to think of what I just paid, right? For a 2-hour session. I did get a friends and family discount because I worked with her so much. So I think that was about, was probably a $700 shoot.
And she would be editing at that stage.
And so then what I get is, 60 images, and I can do what I want with them. But I've also done 1-hour sessions with her. So, and I know that there's pop-ups and there's great photographers that are looking to get established, or they'll do features. They'll do, you can get 3 headshots for $200 or $300. Like, there's features and, fun things that happen all the time. And I also know that there's branding photographers that have packages for, $3,000. I mean, I just have, someone close to me just had photos done. He got 10 photos for $3,000.
Yeah.
These photos are amazing. But would I need them at this point in my life? Probably not. Yeah. But the whole experience was a little different, and where he's at in his business, he needed something different. Sure. And I actually think in that situation, to what you said earlier, hiring this creative person to, capture his essence, with me saying, okay, this is what he needs. This is what his brand is. And then having this photographer create these images, it totally shifted the brand in a new way that we hadn't expected. So it can be the foundational piece.
Got it. So let's talk about the online program piece. I feel like, during COVID times, a lot of people were trying to think of how they could do, virtual practice and add online pieces. So what are some of the, for a local, not somebody, I feel like functional medicine is easy for people to do online because they can have patients wherever. But if you were wanting to do something as a local brick and mortar chiropractor, you don't do anything that's going to be able to be done virtually 100%. What have you seen that has worked, that has helped practices grow?
Oh gosh, the opportunities are endless. I mean, and we have a lot of people think that sometimes docs that are looking to get into the online space are doing it because they want to get out of their practice. No, actually, a lot of them want to expand their influence even within their practice and streamline things. You could create a program on nutrition, on anti-inflammatory foods, on weight loss, on exercise, on strengthening. I mean, whatever your passion is that you feel like your community needs, you can create a program for that. And it could be a simple video series that they pay for. It could be, I've done programs for my practice where they got 21 days of emails. And it was fall into healthy habits. And every day they got an email about something that reminded them to take care of their health in addition to their chiropractic care. You can do group training programs. You can have everyone do, again, change your health habits for the next 30 days and put them and have them pay you and put them into a group and coach them. The opportunities are really, endless. They're endless. And I think that's why I love coaching in those online programs, because I see all these docs and how big their heart is and how many different creative ideas they have. And we have docs in our program who are doing, teaching people how to lose weight, how to fast, how to get over Lyme disease, how to deal with injury management if they've had specifically CrossFit injuries. We have docs in our program who have wanted to talk about parenting strategies and kids in sport. So it really comes down to whatever the doc has in their heart that they want to share and what would fit their practice. Yeah. And that's just a matter of really getting clear on what that's going to look like. I'm giving you a really short scoop here. A lot of people think they're going to create an online business overnight. That's not how it works. There's a lot that you have to learn, first of all, and a lot of these foundational pieces that have to come together before you can actually launch something successfully. And we have a lot of docs come into our program who haven't done any of that stuff, and they realize that they're missing some big pieces in how they want to grow. So it's not going to happen overnight, but you need to be clear on what skills you have to teach. And we have a whole clarity process we take docs through. We have to be clear on the best medium and the best format for that. And that might be, again, one-on-one. It might be group. It might be a membership group. We definitely recommend membership groups a lot these days because people really want community. So if you could have people in your practice pay a fee for a monthly membership to maybe a group on the 4 keys to health or women in menopause or anything, whatever your practice needs and wants. And also what resonates with you as a doc that you want to teach. There's lots of things that I can teach that I don't like to teach. So I don't do them, right? So I have to do work that makes me happy. So I don't really know if I've answered your question, but
what's been the most, you have a local practice, what's been the most successful for you in terms of online programs in your practice?
Definitely the one where it was the 21 days, of health, because I could open it up to the community as well. And I think I even did it for $21. One of the times I did it. And it was just, these are the things that I know if you do them when you're not in my practice, you're going to get better results. And it was simple things like drink more water, move your body every day. Here's a great thing on stress, how to meditate. And I had other people from the community participate in it as well. And we had prizes and we really encouraged engagement. But that really, for me, it highlighted me as not only someone who's a clinical, like a chiropractor, but I'm a warrior for health and wellness. And I know that you're going to get better results if you do some of these things. And it was really fun too.
Do you find value in a lot of those ideas? I'm like, oh, those would be great for your existing patients. Just as hey, we don't have time to go over all the things I know about nutrition here in your visits. But as part of your care plan, you get access. So I feel like that would allow you to value stack your care plan a little bit more to be able to add those. Even if you're not actually charging for it, it has value to it.
Oh, absolutely. And maybe the value is saving you time so you can adjust more people.
Exactly right.
Because I don't have the time per visit to go through with people why I think they should all be doing some intermittent fasting or why I think they should move their body every day or the science behind cold water immersion. I can do those blog posts and everything, but I want to have a conversation around it. And also people want support and accountability. That we know that if you have people behind you supporting you, your results are always going to be better. So I think it's for a lot of docs, not only can it add to your practice and help you grow your practice, but it can add a massive amount of retention and free up your time. So people actually get more from you, because you can sit here and create a video on nutrition and put that on in your program you can't spend that 20 minutes every time someone's here and explain that. You can't do it effectively. So it's a massive time saver for sure.
Yeah. How would you, like, are there any tips you can give people on, all right, I've decided that I want to do a nutrition program. What's a process that they can go through to start to organize their thoughts? Like, when you're thinking of creating a program, what's the organization? Because the first part is to basically outline it. Once you have an outline, it's usually pretty easy to create the content. But how do you recommend doing that process?
I think it's a matter of first thinking about who your avatar is, who your ideal client of that program is going to be. And it may be as simple as thinking about someone in your practice and that person. So picture that person and what are the questions that that person has? What are the questions that what are the steps that that person needs to know to achieve the result? And then really start to simplify it and break it down. I think a really common problem is that docs give too much information and they speak at a level that people can't understand. So you really have to distill it down. And even though it might seem like, overkill for you, because you've been, like, for me, I've been living like this for 20 years now. So reminding myself that people need to know that water is the best drink for you most of the time. Moving your body every day is good for you. Like, a lot of people still don't know that. And so really distilling it down. But if you get really clear on who the person is that you're trying to address, and, even, start to think about people in your practice, what are the questions that they have? You can ask them, and then you just start to gradually, plan it out. And I mean, the last piece to this I would add is you're not going to know until you try. So I talk a lot about, we call it the CPR cycle, where you have an idea, so you create something. So that's the C. So create your idea, and your T is this great nutrition program. Well, then P is going to be produce it. So actually go through, take some people through it and do it. And then the R is like, we'll reflect. So now you got to take a step back and go, okay, what worked? Okay, these are the questions that they had. I didn't address this information. So next time I do the same program, I have to include those in the FAQs, or I have to make sure that I take out this information because it wasn't valuable, or I have to charge more. But you're never going to learn what you're going to reflect on if you don't actually ever do anything. And I think that's the biggest gift that a lot of our clients have found, is that they just will, have an idea and they'll have their framework and they'll go and teach it. And then they get to revise it and do it again, revise it, do it again, and keep going. I mean, you're not going to know what content you need to create if you don't sit down and give it some thought and give the thought to the ideal client, but also jump in and do it. And you're going to know, we say fail forward, because it might rock and it might like fall flat. And if you never do it, then you don't know what the pieces were that fell flat. Maybe it was your copy, maybe it was your branding, maybe it was the price, maybe it was the content, the coaching. So you got to take a risk and jump in at some point, try it.
Yeah. I like the idea of also opening it up to the patients, especially if it's on a broad topic like nutrition, because they may have questions that you never would have thought about. It's too simple, or like, you like miss that opportunity if you're just using the stuff that's in your own head instead of like trying to get other people involved into the creative process. So I think that's a good one.
Inviting them, because they're at a different level than we are as docs, right? And the last piece I will add to this is, remember, like, you are a trained health professional. There are people with high school degrees teaching stuff that you could teach. So don't minimize. And it doesn't even matter if there's 100 people already teaching the same content. How your personality, and this is your personal brand piece, how you share it is going to be totally different than how someone else shares it. And so don't minimize the fact that your message matters. What you have to share in your own way, with your language, with your examples, with your content, is going to connect with the right person. So you need to be clear on who the right person for you is, and then be willing to just, go in and do it. And don't ever minimize the fact that a lot of people think, I don't know enough, I'm not ready. No, you're going to paralyze yourself by that kind of thinking.
Yeah, there's none of that. If you're interested enough to create a program, I promise you can figure out how to talk about enough to fill up a program.
Yeah.
Well, Melissa, I feel like we have covered a lot of different topics today, and I feel like we added a lot of value to the listeners. Tell people a little bit about how they can find out more about you, about your podcast, coaching, all that good stuff.
Sure. Yeah, this has been super fun. It's nice to talk about business. and all these ideas that are near and dear to my heart, not just chiropractic. It's nice to be interviewed for a change too.
Right.
So drmelissalongo.com, rockstar-life.com, everything's there. So there's lots of great free resources. We've got some things up there right now about create your own adventure. So that's a really, really powerful guidebook for a lot of people to get clear on what they want and how they can build that life. Goal setting stuff. There's we have current courses that are available. We have the simple practice will start again in the summer. The email marketing masterclass. There's branding program. There's opportunities to work with me one-on-one. All that information is there. So yeah, the website, or connect with me on Instagram, Facebook. I think I play on Instagram a little bit more these days, but yeah, I love to connect with new people. So just reach out.
Awesome. Any parting words that you could share with our listeners on simplifying their life and practice and growing in 2021?
Listen to your heart, your instincts, your intuition. If you're feeling the call to do something more, if you're feeling a pull somewhere to make a shift in any part of your life, where you live, where you practice, your relationship, your kids, anything, listen to those voices. It's never going to guide you the wrong way. It might take you down paths that might be difficult, but trust in yourself that you can get through it. So listen to your heart, find the right people to support you. So, lean on your people, your mentors, your coaches, your friends, your partners, your kids, whoever's close to you to support you if you're not feeling confident in the directions you want to take. And love yourself, accept yourself for who you're supposed to be. You're not supposed to try to be someone that pleases everyone. And that should be translated in your branding, in how your practice rolls, in how you show up in all parts of your life. And if you do that, you'll live a much happier life. Totally agree. Well, Melissa, I appreciate you taking the time with us today, and we'll see you on the next one.